Yes, Sean.
Greetings, Edgerenka. Greetings, viewers. It's worth mentioning the 21st memorial celebrations of H. Lavity Stout, the territory's first chief minister, late H.L. Stout, was celebrated on Monday, March 7th. And of course, that was a welcomed holiday for many. But a number of activities took place over that weekend, Edgerenka, to celebrate the father of this UK overseas territory, H.L. Stout. Highway is one suggestion coming from the man who has inherited the first district from that veteran politician. Honorable Andrew Foy now holds the first district, and at the memorial, at least the celebratory service held at the Methodist Church in Road Town on Monday morning, he suggested that maybe we should consider removing the name of Francis Drake and replacing it with H.L. Stout. In addition to that, of course, there was a wonderful dinner celebrating, of course, the H. Lavity Stout Community College, and one of the stalwarts at the college, Dr. Charles Wheatley, OBE, he received the first H.L. Stout Award, and I'm sure that he will hold that dearly to his heart. A number of speeches came out there, and we saw Honorable Minister for Education, Myron Walwyn, making some rather controversial comments, suggesting that some politicians are not like H.L. Stout. They don't necessarily like to see intelligent persons in their midst. That is something that's worth discussing maybe in the future. But for the time being, as we segue into this aspect of the top news segment, the imaginative nature of H.L. Stout is dominating, so to speak, in terms of the first ever science fair to be hosted by the Northern Caribbean Conference of Seventh-day Adventist Secondary Schools, which brought together students from Trinidad, that is the Caribbean Union College in Trinidad and Tobago, and students, of course, from the St. Croix Seventh-day Adventist School, Secondary School, also the St. Thomas St. John Seventh-day Adventist Secondary School, and the BVI Seventh-day Adventist Secondary School, now headed by Mr. Wade Tobin. You may remember Mr. Tobin. He was principal of the Elmore Stout High School just a year or two or so ago. But one of the comments that struck many and remained at the forefront of my mind at the opening ceremony for that science fair earlier today in Sycaus Bay at the BVI Seventh-day Adventist School is one made by Dr. Hilary Bowman, and he's Director of Education for the Caribbean Union Conference of Seventh-day Adventists. And he's suggesting that more needs to be done to improve the levels of science and technology awareness and participation among students in the Caribbean. He's suggesting that we aren't doing enough. Let's hear him in this short clip.
What do we have? What do we do? Have we done enough? Or are we doing enough? Think about it. Much is left to the school system, in the classroom. We ask the question, what do we do in the classroom to help our young people to focus on the sciences? What do we do? If you take a walk through many of the classrooms in the Caribbean, you'd find that there's much more to be done.
Very important statement there, and I can tell you, if you're familiar with the classroom setting, if you're familiar with many of the laboratories throughout the Caribbean in many secondary schools, you would find them wanting. You'll find them so lacking. You would wonder, why are they pursuing science subjects with the intent of competing with students outside the region? And in fact, just to support what Dr. Bowman said, a recent research was done by Sagico and CXC, and they actually launched a program with the hope of encouraging young people to pay more attention to the sciences and to encourage them to consider careers in the sciences. Their research showed that most Caribbean secondary school students do not personally know a scientist or an engineer. And that is not to say that we don't have any. But as far as the research is concerned, these are not popular careers among many secondary school students. And they also indicated that there's a lack of scientific equipment in schools. Yes, lack of equipment in secondary schools, coupled with limited teacher competencies, content-heavy and theory-based syllabi, a lot of the theoretical work and very little practical, and that has resulted, or all of that they have resulted in the discipline being less attractive among young people.
Did he make any suggestions on what we can do? Did he come up with any ideas?
Certainly, he's calling for more investment. He's saying that more money should be invested in ensuring that science and technology receive more priority. And in fact, speaking just before him, Dr. Marcia Potter, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education and Culture, who delivered remarks on behalf of Minister for Education, Honorable Myron Walwyn, indicated that all primary schools in the territory now have access to the internet, which enables them, the teachers and the students, to make full use of the internet while in the classroom. However, based on what Dr. Bowman is saying here, he's really suggesting that we need to go beyond that, beyond providing internet access. While that is good, and ensure that the practical levels, the practical applications are available for our children, the tools, the equipment, and so forth, and also in improving teacher training in that particular area as well. So it's more than just a theoretical work.
Well, we've been turning our attention more to the vocations, Sean.
Yes.
We've been emphasizing, matter of fact, we've built a state-of-the-art technical school.
Yes.
And we've been focusing on what we see as our needs as a territory, the vocations, plumbing, the technical fields, engineering, and so on. But as far as sciences like chemistry and biology and those other sciences, natural sciences, we don't seem to think of those in terms of being something that we need to develop. And certainly, I don't know if he's suggesting that as a region and perhaps as a territory, we need the emphasis that we are putting on the vocations. We need to put that same emphasis on the sciences as well.
Agreed. In fact, if you were there today and you saw some of the all of the exhibits, you would argue that many of them are solution oriented. They are practical. They can be used in the home. You can charge your cell phones, as that student is displaying right there, using that hypothesis that they worked out, and it's excellent. Of course, it's just a trial and it can be developed even further, but we saw hovercraft, we saw so many things being proposed, and these are ideas that can be further developed with additional research and can bring solutions to some of the problems that we have right here in the territory, across the Caribbean, and certainly beyond.
How did you feel about the science exhibit itself, the fair itself? Did you think that our students were getting the whole science idea in their system and producing works and scientific displays that are meaningful and that we could say, well, yes, perhaps we may not be getting all the attention, all the resources that we need, giving our kids all the resources that they need, but certainly in their mind, they are making progress regarding developing science for themselves.
Certainly, I think they do have a grasp of the subject area, and we may be selling them short. We may be holding back on them in terms of the resources that we ought to make available, in that the secondary school students seem to have a very wide and deep appreciation of the subject area, and therefore within their creative minds, they can surprise many of us and be inventors of some ideas that many of us never really thought about. In fact, in terms of I saw a hydroponic idea, not new, but the concept itself was quite inventive, and I said that's creative work there. And the young lady who was explaining the process to us, she is quite convinced that can be taken on a larger scale. And I thought of the greenhouses that are yet to be operational in this territory, and I said to myself, here's a secondary school student proposing an idea that is workable, that is quite practical. And we have such a major problem, $5 million or more spent and sitting down in Parakeeta Bay. And some of the quote-unquote greater minds are yet to put that into effect.
Well, certainly, Sean, is heartwarming to hear that our young people are thriving and going forward despite the limited resources. And I think in the future we need to perhaps look at that and see how we can help them to go even further in advance. So I want to thank you for bringing that to our attention as a territory, because certainly we need scientists. The whole world is developing into science-based technologies, and we're going to need to be a part of the global science productivity. So that's
You
a
have
good-
them
that's
right
a
there.
good
They're
thing.
right there in the
That's a good
schools,
thing.
and it's just skills that can be tapped into. Their innate abilities are quite obvious. Very talented young people.
And we need to use that talent for our development.
Very much so.
Yes.